This podcast is part of the Listen Frederick Podcast Network. To learn more, visit listenfrederick.com.
The Fedora Files.
Hello, I'm Gregory Fedora, and this is the Fedora Files. Welcome. So glad you could come and join and spend some time here with me. This week, I want to dive into a creature that I love. Now, I've done a podcast about the snallygaster, and I've done one about the snarly owl, but there's this other creature that is just as important and has a major place in my heart because it's from this area, and it is known as the Dwayyo. Now, the Dwayyo is the bitter enemy of the snallygaster. If you've listened to the snallygaster podcast, or the Happy Little Monsters about the snallygaster, or the Happy Little Monsters about the Dwayyo, or read the book, you know these two are enemies and butted heads for hundreds of years. The thing about the Dwayyo is, the name Dwayyo wasn't really out there until like the 1960s, thereabouts. But before that, the creature was known as the Hexwolf. Now, the Hexwolf was, as you can guess, a wolfman-like creature. Werewolf, Wolfman. Now it's more popular to call them Dogman or Dogmen. Not sure why we want to go to dog, because dogs aren't as fearful or fearsome to me as, say, a werewolf or a wolfman. But anyway, so before the Dwayyo, it was known as the Hexwolf, and the Hexwolf terrorized Pennsylvania, parts of Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, even New Jersey and New York, and up into New England. They all had this like Hexwolf thing. And the Hexwolf came from the old country, from Germany and Europe. Their parts, they believed in werewolves and such, and they brought these stories with them over here. Now, did they see or experience something? Many people said they did. There's a lot of people who blame the Hexwolf for death or being attacked, being killed, whatever, and it was the Hexwolf. In the 1800s, there's a farm not far from here to the northwest of me, which is over my left shoulder if you're watching the video. They claimed that a snallygaster Dwayyo fight occurred, and I wish there was a plaque on the farm, but I looked up like one of the places that did the insurance, and I did some research, and it's over this direction. It's not far from where I live, but they claimed that the snallygaster and Dwayyo had a bitter battle and did some damage to the barn and the crops, and they tried to get some money out of the folks, out of some insurance making this claim. I don't think they got anything out of it, but they tried. They really did try. The other cool thing about that was that the Dwayyo, it has this trend. There's a trend. If you go and look at, besides attacking and fighting the snallygaster, they were just bitter enemies, territorial. They're monsters. But the Dwayyo seems to have this trend that every 20-some years, there was like people were seeing it. And it's like, in a way, almost like it was migratory. Like it would go away and come back, go away and come back. And it has a 20-year loop, I guess. But interesting, every 20 years, there were stories about people seeing the Dwayyo or interacting or being scared by it. In the 1960s, there was a rash of sightings. Rash, is that right? There were a bunch of sightings. Anyway, there was a plethora of sightings of the Dwayyo in the area, even so much so that there's police reports about it. Two park rangers, to me, this is one of the more credible, interesting stories, is that these two park rangers claim to have run into the Dwayyo up at Catoctin Park, which is near Camp David, which is where the president is. So you don't want a werewolf around the president, unless you don't like the president. Then you're like, yeah, I want the werewolf there. But this isn't a political show, so we're not going to get into that. But we are going to get into the Dwayyo being in Catoctin. Now, the reason I find this interesting is 1965 is in early winter, late fall time. Two park rangers said that they saw this thing. Now, they're park rangers. They see bears, and there's bears in there. They see wolves. They see coyotes. They see raccoons. They see wild dogs. They see all kinds of stuff. They know what these things are, but they claim to see this 6 to 7 foot beast that was on two legs covered in fur, looked like a wolf's head, was gallivanting and stalking through the forests of Catoctin in the woods deep in there, and they pursued it. And the thing was agile and quick, and it got away. And if it was a person wearing a costume, I don't know how agile and quick you would be to get away from two park rangers pursuing you, but maybe the park rangers weren't in good shape. I don't know. I wasn't there. But they reported it to the authorities, and it even got into the newspaper, into the Frederick News Post, posted a story about in 1965, and they claimed to have seen it. And the thing about that is, that's not something, if you're a park ranger, you're not going to go out and tell people, hey, I saw the Dwayyo, because that's not really going to help your projected career path. Like, oh, those are the two rangers who saw Wolfman. That's not something you're going to want to go tell people. You're not going to especially want it to get into the newspaper, because their names are in the newspaper, and I cannot recall them at this moment. But if you look up the thing, their names are there. Also, there's a police officer who also claimed to have ran into it, and he claimed to have seen it. Well, anyway, so the 60s or in the 80s, there are some other people claim to have seen this creature in and around South Mountain, the Catoctin Mountains, on the Appalachian Trails. People have claimed to see this thing. Then again, in the 80s, I think I just said 80s, and again in the 2000s, and now we're in 2020s. So, if my theory is right, we should start hearing, or at least someone in this area should spot the Dwayyo and tell us, hey, I saw the Dwayyo, and then be, oh crap, there's a werewolf in the area. And for me, that's not good, because I live near South Mountain. That's where, he likes to stalk around. But maybe my 3 huskies keep him away, because he hears them and he's like, I don't want to deal with huskies. They like to pull sleds. And so, who knows? I don't know what could happen. Probably nothing. Is it real? Is it not? There again, I'm not going to judge that. I think the stories that were passed down, people ran into things. I know that there's, especially in Europe and stuff, people now say that it could have been rabid people who had rabies acted like this, but that's also where we get the idea of vampires, because someone who's rabid can't stand sunlight, can't stand water, so holy water, it's like, So, yes, it could just be stories, but someone somewhere along the way interacted with something they could not explain. And here they called it the Hexwolf, turned it to the Dwayyo in the 1960s, and it continues to this day. The story, to me, like I said, is one of my favorites, because, again, I think my top favorite monster is a Snallygaster, because it's a dragon that lives on the mountain behind my house, and that's awesome. And then the Dwayyo's its bitter enemy. I mean, come on. A werewolf and a dragon fighting for territory, farmers calling, saying, help me, they've destroyed my farm. And then they're like the precursor to King Kong and Godzilla. They're like, before that, this is like the biggest Pokemon battle ever. Giant dragon, big werewolf. Who's going to win? My money would actually be on the dragon, but you don't know. According to legend, neither one of them killed each other. The Snallygaster died from fumes from moonshine, so that should teach you a lesson. And the Dwayyo just sort of disappears. Like I said, every 20 years, goes away, comes back. Perhaps it's migratory. Just like a lot of people believe Bigfoot is a migratory creature that, travels. And the people are seeing a clan of the same creatures. So like the skunk ape and the grassman and the yowie and all these things, and yetis and sasquatches, they're all the same. They all just migrate through the country. Other people say they're interdimensional creatures that can come and go. That's why they disappear. Maybe the Dwayyo's an interdimensional creature that we can't explain. I don't know. I've never seen it. I don't know that I want to see it. I'm one of these that I love the stories. I love the folklore. I love everything about it. I love preserving these stories and keeping them going, because I feel like these cryptids and monster stories are foundational to our country. They are a part of it, and they help people understand the mindset of the people of the time. It's also bringing the heritage from the old country to our country, and I think that's important that we keep these heritages alive, because if it dies out, you kind of lose your identity as a country, as a nation, and I don't want that. I want to keep learning more and more about these different things, and I feel like, to me, it's cool to learn these things. So, how about you? Have you ever seen something in the woods you couldn't explain? Was it a werewolf? Was it a Bigfoot? What was it? What are your thoughts? Share with me. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you would do if you ran into it. Is there a monster you wanted to learn more about? The history, the backstory, the folklore, like the story behind the story? Let me know. I will research out, because I love doing this. I love sharing this. I mean, I do the Happy Little Monster videos every week on my YouTube channel, and I try and tell a different monster every week. But those are only like 1 minute, like boom, 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 and it's over. And so I want to do these podcasts where I can expand on some of my more favorite ones to get the story out there, flesh it out a little more, hear a little bit more of the detail of what's in and around it, some of the sightings, some of the things. I'd love to have some people on who have spotted these things or interacted with you, and I'm going to try and get some of those people to show up and talk more about what they've seen and how they've interacted. But I just love sharing these stories with you, because I think it's cool and important that we keep hearing about. So, until next time, stay safe and keep searching.
The Fedora Files.
Check out FedoraCRT.com today.